first, I need to talk about the problem with naming the traumas, naming what happened. We have a tendency to associate our love towards our parents with a sense of belonging, with a sense of identity. So if I don't somehow completely love and respect my parents, regardless of what they did, I may feel a loss of belonging and a loss of identity. And this is why many people cover up for their parents. They don't tell anyone what happened. They don't discuss, they don't talk about it. And if they do end up talking about it, they justify it. Because justifying is a way of preserving the relationship and the belonging. So if I say, well, my mother had a tough time herself, so it's understandable that she was abusive, that she behaved the way that she did, I'm excusing her behavior at the expense of my well-being for the rest of my life. Instead, she's not alive anymore, so this has come too late to me to make amends, but I can still live. I still have a life to live, so I will do that. If instead I name the abuse and I say, look, this behavior is harmful and it has long-term effects and it just shouldn't have happened, regardless of the reasoning behind it, I'm liberating myself and I'm liberating her as well, because, well, whatever has happened to her, she can now say, well, that wasn't right either. Whatever happened to me wasn't right either. And then she can free herself. So we free ourselves by naming the abuse, naming its impact, and recognizing that it really was wrong. And I don't need to carry with me for the rest of my life this feeling of being inadequate or shameful or disgusting or whatever it is that my parent made me feel because it was done to them. Or maybe it wasn't, we don't know, but probably was. This is very likely a learned pattern that comes down through the generations. And it is seen as an excuse to, this is how you raise children, you know. But in any case, what we're talking about here as naming the abuse without vilifying the parent. So there is no need to get revenge, justify either. It's just very simple. What happened shouldn't have happened. At this point, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. It just matters that it had an impact, a very, very significant negative impact on someone. And someone who could not protect themselves, someone who did not know what was happening, who did not have the autonomy and didn't have the even the words to describe, someone who felt really scared, and someone who grew up in fear. It's not in any way a surprise that this person would grow up and develop some sort of depression, anxiety, or anything significant that would impair their normal functioning as a human being. But I'm not shaming the parent, even though the parent will feel shamed, yes, because the whole system thrives and survives is maintained by shame. Shaming is behind all narcissistic abuse. Narcissistic abuse is covert abuse. It's blaming somebody for something which they're not responsible for. So when I dropped something on the ground and my mother felt irritated by it, perhaps even angry, she felt the need to outsource that feeling of inadequacy to someone else. So if she feels angry because something has fallen on the floor and broken, I was there I was there to be blamed for it. And when she blames me for it, there is a sense of relief, because it means she does not have to own the anger and the whatever it is that she was feeling that I will now never know. But the child cannot be blamed because children are blameless. So the child takes the blame and carries it for the rest of her life. And the deep devaluation that comes from not performing a task according to the parents' expectations, not being good enough, that comes from the child being an extension of the parent's self. So when I was good and performed well and was praised, she felt the praise to herself, because she was not capable of understanding her feelings or taking responsibility for her feelings. So whenever she felt angry or sad or afraid or self-conscious or shamed, she would blame on me. I will just briefly mention why what I'm doing is not victimization. It is because I am mentioning what happened to me, something that was done to me. I am recognizing the impact of what has happened and how it affected me. But I am not removing my responsibility towards anything on the basis of what happened to me. So victimization is when we feel helpless because of some external factor. So if I said, well, because I have suffered all this abuse, it is okay for me to be cruel to my children, or something like that. So just to make a clear distinction, I know many people feel uncomfortable discussing their trauma because they feel that they are indulging in victimization, but it's not the same. Victimization is something else. Victimization is when you resign. So you just go, well, I am a victim. Someone else has done something to me. They need to pay for it. And I am blameless. And I am unable to become a functional person. And I am to be excused from my responsibilities. So that's victimization. What I'm doing is not that. What I'm doing is recognizing that something had an impact on me that shouldn't have happened. And in the process of doing that for myself, I am recognizing that much of how I feel is a response to my upbringing, and the feeling that I have carried around with me forever was that there was something wrong with me, that there was something that I had to hide. And that has had a huge impact on my life. And it's just not real. It is a result of years and years of abuse. Now, back to narcissistic abuse. That is the type of abuse which is not, it does not look like abuse. And that makes it really difficult to identify and also protest. So you put up with it. I put up with it. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know how it was wrong. So I couldn't say it. And even if I could, there would be no point, because I was completely dependent on this person. And I only recently found the words to describe the abuse, because it is so hidden. It is so, it just makes you feel like it's your fault. It really felt like this whole time I was a bad child. It is incredible. It is a complete, very effective way of achieving mind control. Very, very effective. So the abuse was hidden, no one knew, and no one could imagine that my mother was abusing because she was so charming. She was so lovely to everyone else. She was lovely to my friends, even though she would bitch about them behind their back. She was lovely to most people except for her immediate family who knew her very well. And but at home, she was a monster. I'm sorry to say, but she was really abusive. I was not allowed to want anything. And I believe this is because there was a period, a very long period, in which there was some financial difficulties and she couldn't afford things the way she wanted to. And that made her feel inadequate. So if I wanted something, that was wrong. That was bad. So I wasn't allowed to want anything. I wasn't allowed to be upset. I wasn't allowed to have anything that my siblings didn't have. So if someone gave me something, I had to share whatever that was. And I had a job in the house. I was co-parent to her. Co-parent to I was co-parent to my siblings, to my younger siblings. So my job was to help raising them, looking after them, because she was alone at home with us most of the time. So I had a job. And of course, if something went wrong, I got the blame for it. If they fell and cut themselves, that would be my fault. If they cried, that would be my fault. It was so it was relentless. It was just relentless. I had no peace whatsoever growing up. I had more peace while I was at school, which is why I really liked going to school and staying at school for as long as possible. But that wasn't allowed because I had to be home to help with the kids as well. So I grew up feeling an enormous sense of responsibility, like everything was my fault. And to some extent, that's not a bad thing to feel, but it is very exhausting. It's not true. There is what it is that is my fault, and there is what is not. And I did not know the difference. And there is the sense of being lazy, and that I was told that I was lazy, and that was probably because I was very tired, because I was essentially working. I'm very lucky that nothing major happened to me, but if anything bad happened to me, then somehow it was my fault. I felt pain in my chest very intensely for a very long time, and I felt it turned into depression because I felt a sense of helplessness for not knowing how to be better, how to do better, always believing that I had to do better, but not knowing how. And in a sense that it was wrong to be upset. And so whenever I felt that I wanted something, or whenever I felt upset or wanted to cry, I felt really bad about that too, and I didn't know why. But once I named the abuse, this has significantly improved, you see. And I'm sharing this all with you because I just know how important it is. People are being medicated left, right, and center. Those medicines help, but they are not the solution. The solution is to understand where those feelings are coming from. Where is the feeling of helplessness coming from that makes you lose complete will to do anything? Because it's exhausting to hide. So if you believe that you have something to hide, that something's wrong with you, that you have to hide, it's exhausting. And then everything that happens, if you make a mistake, if the company you're working for goes bust, if your boss decides to lay you off, or if you find it difficult to find a job, you don't think, oh yeah, well, they're market forces. You think, it's because there is something wrong with me. This is another proof. Therefore, if there's something wrong with me, how will I ever do anything differently? Because I'm flawed. And that's depression. That's how depression takes hold of you. The belief that there's something wrong with you, that you're essentially flawed, that there is no point trying to change because you don't know how to change. It brings you down to the point where finally your nervous system shuts down and say, look, let's save energy. There is no point fighting. We just have to save energy. And when you get to the bottom of the proverbial pit, no one is coming to save you. And I have discussed this before in writing. I will make another video about that because I think the proverbial pit is a potentially transformative place to go to. There is gold down the bottom of that pit, if you can find it. But it's a dangerous place because some people never come back from it. I am lucky that I have. And how did I come out of the pit? There is obviously, this is a complete new video altogether, but it was through relationships. I was very lucky that I have found people throughout my life who offered me and gave me a hand. They gave me a lifeline of support by just being kind, by listening, and by giving me opportunities, which is what we must do for each other. We cannot get a new childhood. You cannot get a new parent. And there is no point trying to take revenge. Not that you would want to anyway, hardly anyone ever would. But you do have to give people opportunity and support. That's an obligation that we have as humans to other humans. It's in the Bible, it's in the Quran, it's an ethical principle of all sorts. We don't do that enough. We don't help each other enough. And we don't talk about stuff like this enough. So hopefully this is a little ripple in the hopefully what would become a big wave that will start to change things for the better. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.